All right, I'm going to just give a summary of the documentary film, The Coming Convergence. It is a film. It can actually be watched for free on YouTube right now, free with the ads. But there's been a lot of interest in it. Well, really, ever since 2020. But this documentary came out in 2017. So before all the converging things that are happening right now. And it is like about an hour and 40 minutes. And the information is really important. The documentary concerns the fulfillment of biblical prophecy, some that has already been fulfilled, that Jesus and the biblical prophets told us to look for during the last generation on earth. So as I said, this film was released in 2017. So that's like 6 years ago. And it's prior to all of the events that have been on the world stage recently and have destabilized really the entire world, beginning with COVID and even before that. No one knew that any of that would happen when this film released. So I encourage everyone to watch the film, but if you cannot or don't have the time, I'm going to start doing some of this, the biblical documentaries that I watch or the books that I read. I'll be sharing summaries because that's part of what I do. I just fill up so that I can overflow and share what I've learned, because I enjoy binging on books and binging on things of the Bible. So I am sharing this summary with the hope that those of you who choose not to watch the film may instead listen to this briefer video, or may go to the blog post that I have and read it in just a few minutes. And read and at least read the first line of each paragraph, so that perhaps something may cause you to research further. So ultimately you will know what the biblical prophecies have said, and you'll know about prior events that were in the Bible that have already been fulfilled. And then I just want to spread the knowledge that the film provides, the knowledge of the biblical prophetic messages and the prophetic fulfillments, so that more may come to faith in the God of Abraham and in his Son, Jesus Christ. I am not a biblical prophecy scholar or expert. I know a little here and there, but this film was put together by scholars in the area of biblical prophecy. So it seems like absolute nonsense to many to look at ancient biblical prophecy as a way to understand current events. However, for those who have been educated on this topic, it is impossible to deny the convergence of events that are prescribed in biblical prophecy are upon us. The world will certainly come to a physical end one day. Religious people and scientists disagree on a whole lot of things, but there's one thing they both agree upon. The earth is not everlasting. The earth as we know it had a beginning within the universe, and it will have an end. Now, some of those determinations are influenced by doomsday prophecies that make it onto the internet, media, and they go viral, often making the daily global news. For example, there was a prediction related to the Mayan calendar that the world would end in 2012. Remember that? However, predictions such as these are often very general and vague. The predicted dates come and go, and this numbs us and conditions us to merely ignore all end of the world prophecies. Then there are historical prophets such as Nostradamus, who wrote in the 5th century. Many believe that Nostradamus prophesied the rise of Hitler, but even the predictions of Nostradamus were spoken in very broad and generalized descriptions. But biblical prophecy is different. The Bible does not give broad generalizations. The Bible gives very specific details as to what will happen. Furthermore, what makes biblical prophecy different from others is its accuracy. The very specific prophecies actually do occur, and thousands of these prophecies have already come to be. Due to the enormous amount of fulfilled prophecy from the Bible, the topic of biblical prophecy is something that can actually be studied and quantified by researchers of social science. The study and research of biblical prophecy related to the end times is called eschatology. Eschatology. It's a hard word to say. Eschatology. End times theology. You know, we have the Bible, the 66 books of the Bible, thousands of pages. 27% of the Bible is actually prophetic material. And so the determination can be made on this research question. Do all of these hundreds or thousands of prophecies actually come to pass? Unlike the countless vague secular predictions that are sensationalized and picked up by news media outlets, biblical prophecy contains an unprecedented, this is a direct quote from the film, biblical prophecy contains an unprecedented and complex tapestry of interwoven chronological events and details that present the complete timeline of humankind from the beginning to the end. Okay, cool, huh? Overall, the ancient biblical scriptures contain over 2,500 prophetic details written over the course of 1,000 years by 47 different authors. It contains the longest running record of human history that we have in existence. And this is why it continues to be studied with seriousness in the universities of researchers in the world. The biblical prophetic scriptures have survived through the rise and fall of countless of empires over thousands of years. And most importantly, these biblical prophecies have proven to be accurate. Here is one specific example that the film covers. The Bible prophesied the destruction of the city of Tyre. The prophecy was recorded 200 years before it happened. The prophecy stated that the city would be destroyed to dust, and specifically, all its rocks would be thrown into the sea. And secular history confirms this event was fulfilled in July of 332 BC when Alexander the Great destroyed Tyre. His army used the rocks of the original city to build a land bridge in the sea in order to be able to reach the relocated island city of Tyre. The prophecy of the destruction of Tyre is a very specific prophecy happening to a very particular city and occurring with specific details provided. Biblical prophecy is not a list of broad generalities concerning what may potentially happen. Biblical prophecies do come to pass, and they are fulfilled and detailed. The city of Tyre is not just one example of biblical prophecy that just happened to be fulfilled. All the biblical prophecies have either been fulfilled or are in the process of being fulfilled. Again, the information I am providing is information that I gleaned from the coming Convergence documentary. that came out in 2017. So, even more significant is this fact. Biblical prophecy must occur in a sequential manner, like a row of dominoes. One predicted event must occur before the next event in the timeline, or else the entire prophetic timeline will not be fulfilled. Yet, we see the dominoes have been positioned and they fall just as was prescribed. Even as we now watch current events unfold, there is undoubtedly no record like the biblical prophetic record in existence anywhere else in the history of the world. Let's pivot here and let's look specifically at the sequence of prophecies that began around 2,000 years ago when Jesus of Nazareth was here on earth. Based on historical records, Jesus' birth and life fulfilled over 300 biblical references from the prophetic scriptures. His death by crucifixion was predicted 400 years before crucifixion was even invented as a method of the death penalty by the Romans. This is why Jesus' disciples trusted him and asked him about the end of the age. Jesus told them what will happen with details given too. What will be the sign of your coming and the end of the age, they asked. Jesus replied by telling them a list of all the things to look for. Jesus' prophetic words were definitely not what his disciples wanted to hear. Jesus told them that the nation of Israel would cease to exist. It would be scattered and destroyed so that not one stone of the temple would be left standing upon another. Jesus foretold of the complete destruction of Israel and of the dispersal of the Jewish people across, the Bible says, Jesus said, the four corners of the earth. This was a terrifying warning, which most people of the time would never have believed could happen. However, 40 years later, after Jesus' crucifixion, the prophecy was fulfilled exactly as Jesus said. During the rule of Titus, more than 1 million Jews were slaughtered, and the temple in Jerusalem was demolished, so that not one stone was standing upon another, just as Jesus specifically said would happen. The surviving remnant of Jewish people were dispersed across the earth, and they remained dispersed without a homeland or a nation for 1,800 years. It was also prophesied hundreds of years before Jesus' life on earth that Jerusalem would be destroyed and that the Jewish people, after having been dispersed, would be regathered again and the nation of Israel would be reborn. And Jesus himself provided the parable of the dead fig tree coming back to life, and that this would happen at the beginning of the end of days. Most biblical scholars believe that when the fig tree is used symbolically in the Bible, it is a symbol for the nation of Israel. So Jesus was proclaiming, when you see the fig tree budding, coming back to life, know that my return is near. Many biblical scholars believe that when the dead fig tree blossoms, when the nation of Israel is reborn, that will be the same generation that will see the return of Jesus. Therefore, the end of days would begin with the rebirth of Israel. Obviously, the prophecy of the rebirth of Israel could not occur without it first being destroyed, but both have occurred. Pretty fascinating, huh? So if that sequence of events is not miraculous enough on its own, then it should also be known that there are additional details regarding specifically how the rebirth of Israel would be fulfilled. Okay. In Ezekiel, the prophecy of the Valley of the Dry Bones specifically predicts that the scattered Jews and their nation will be brought back together. Then the prophet of Isaiah is told to give a very specific prophecy, one so unbelievable that even he questioned, how could that happen? Even so, Isaiah obediently prophesied that the nation of Israel would be reborn in a single day. Who could believe this could occur with any nation? And for it to be reborn in a single day, surely this could never come to pass. However it did, it happened just as it was prophesied. There is no other country in the world that has been completely destroyed, with its people scattered across the world, and then became later reborn in their original homeland with their original language, with their original heritage intact, 1,800 years after its destruction. However, it happened for the nation of Israel. On May 14th, 1948, after the Holocaust and the end of the World War II, Israel was reborn as a nation in her original land. And this indeed occurred in a single day, in an act proclaimed by the United Nations. Israel became a nation again after destruction and exile from its land for over 1,800 years. And this all occurred exactly in line with biblical prophecy.